Welcome to TYT Sports. Jason and Francis here with you for 3 more delectably juicy, very tasty stories. Every week we add another adjective.
And it was always juicy.
How you doing this morning?
I'm chilling.
Francis,
I'm chilling.
hanging?
No, I'm chilling.
Just chilling.
All
right, well, we'll get right into it then because Las Vegas has set the over-under for NBA win totals this season. Now, we did a clip on the YouTube channel that involves ESPN Insider's projections, and they were pretty far off, at least in terms of the betting standards, because how odds makers work and how ESPN Inside projections work are different. There's different formulas, different algorithms. However, the big news out of it was Vegas set a record-breaking number for the over-under total for the Golden State Warriors. And before I even tell you the number, hammer the under. Oh my God. I've never wanted to bet so much money in my life. Let's take a look at first at all the division leaders, including the Golden State Warriors. 66.5 wins. 10 wins above second for the Pacific Division at least. Atlantic, Boston with 51.5. Central, Cleveland, 56.5. Southeast, Atlanta, 43.5. Southwest, the Spurs, 56.5. It's a very Spurs-heavy clip today. Spurs in basketball, Spurs in football. Northwest, Utah Jazz, 47.5 wins, a big improvement. Pacific, Golden State, 66.5. Francis, why do you think I'm so adamant on hammering the under? Bet the under on Golden State.
Good odds?
Well, same odds. Over under, it's either or, so minus 110.
I understand where you're coming from. Like, I just feel that if you're going to hammer the under, you're underestimating the potential greatness of them following up their record-breaking year, which, again, is understandable, considering it was a record-breaking year, which means, as far as we know, it was very unique, considering no one else had done it before. So you are banking on the fact that they will not continue as much so because of what they seen last year, which was when you pursue a record and you put all of your eggs firmly within that very golden-plated basket, it can hinder you when it comes to the offseason.
Here's where people are going to think I'm crazy. I think the over-under should have been set at 64.5 wins, which is absurdly high still. That is so many effing wins. Keep in mind, last season's lessons are going to carry over. For one, they started undefeated through 20-plus games, and it caught up with them. By the end of the year, it really did. You saw what the end of the season was like. My feeling is the number 1 seed is still likely going to the Warriors. I think Steve Kerr has learned even more now going into his 3rd year as the head coach of the Golden State Warriors. 64, 65 wins is still under, although you'll be getting by on the skin of your teeth. I also know, historically, when the super team comes together, they don't win that much. So my feeling is, even though that Kevin Durant, I believe, will fit seamlessly into the Warriors eventually, halfway through the season, I wouldn't be that surprised if they're 5, 6, 7 games over 500 at the halfway point, and then have a great run at the end of the year and finish somewhere between 60 and 65 wins and still get the number 1 seed. But 66.5 means they have to win 67 games. 67 games.
Yeah.
Right? I get it. The Warriors are more than good. They're great. However, basketball still has its season-long tendencies of wearing down a team. And when you're going to have to start sparsely resting some of these guys, when Draymond Green might need that off day, when Kevin Durant might need that off day, because I think Kerr is going to start picking up on those ideas. There's no reason to play Durant 82 games a year if you don't have to. There's definitely no reason to play Curry 82 games a year.
I'm going to go as confidently as you are with the under on Golden State Warriors for the over for the San Antonio Spurs, because they had a record-breaking season for them last year.
Yes.
And I think that they, if we can throw back up the graphic,
go to the second one, the top 15, because the Spurs are right up there. Perfect.
So if they're at 56.5, right, I think that they're going to pursue their way potentially to the top seed. I don't know if they can just pip the Golden State Warriors and go into the number 1 seed. I would still bank on them to be number 2, but they've proven consistently that they're there or thereabouts. I mean, last season, it was unfortunate for them that their own accomplishments were overshadowed by a record-breaking team. They performed so well at home, specifically well at home, and I think that they'll do the exact same thing this year. Yeah, losing players like Tim Duncan is going to be hard to replace. Again, Tim Duncan's minutes were shared last year. He didn't play as many minutes as you would imagine, and I think the same thing will happen this year. I think that Greg Popovich, as well as he wants to finish strong and he wants to have a good number at the end of the year, I think he'll be competent with a second seed going into the playoffs because he's seen what happens when you pursue that record. He has seen what happened with Steve Kerr. He's a very, very mature coach, as we know, and he's always thinking for the future. I don't think Greg Popovich is a coach that's thinking for the now. He's always thinking about, all right, well, with 6, 7, 8 games left in the regular season, I'm thinking about the playoffs. And I think that gradually through the season, I wouldn't expect the Spurs to get to a 70 win.
They had such a remarkable season that they finished in one of the top 12 winningest seasons of all time. And if it wasn't for the Warriors' record-breaking year, everybody would be talking about how dominant those Spurs were. Keep in mind, with Durant going to the Golden State Warriors, there was a blank on that for a second, as if that wasn't the only thing talked about in the NBA for the past 4 months. Keep in mind with that, with Durant on the Warriors, it does make the Thunder slightly worse, not just slightly worse, a worse team than they were last year, so it gives the Spurs maybe some more edge in those games too. Fantastic bet.
I'm taking
to take the over. And this is very overreactionary. Of course, an injury could happen 10 games into the season, and you're like, well, there goes my over. The other one, there's one other guarantee that I want to make people, which is a bad idea because I shouldn't be making any guarantees.
Especially with betting.
Back to the top 15. Take the over on all 3 of these teams. Boston, Toronto, and Indiana. I can almost guarantee that 2 of the 3 will go over. Indiana seems undoubtedly true, unless something is very wrong with the coaching or a major injury. Boston and Toronto, I'm also saying go over, not to lock it in saying that Boston's going to win 55 games and Toronto will win 52, let's say. But if you take the over on all 3, I'm very, very certain that 2 of those 3 teams will go over, which will result in you making money, right? So I would go over on all 3. And then for the second half of that list, there's teams you don't touch. Cleveland, don't touch Cleveland. You don't know how many games LeBron's going to sit. You don't know what's going to be like in the Eastern Conference. Not fun. Go over on the Lakers, too.
Chicago Bulls are getting my money.
Over on the Bulls?
Over on the Bulls.
Bulls. You ever see the SNL skit?
The
Chris
doubles?
Farley? Doubles.
Yeah.
And then they
doubles.
go to Da Bears. The best line in that whole skit, though, is he's like, well, we got Jordan, so we're going for at least a 5, 6, 9, a 9-peat. Which, hysterically, was technically almost true.
Yeah.
It could have been an 8-peat for the Bulls.